Give me control of a nation's what? Money, and I care not who makes its laws. That's what he said. Give me control of the nation's money, and you can have anybody, any puppet you want in there. Anybody. How? This is a very interesting story here. It's story time. Is that all right? How did Nathan Rothschild, the son of Amschel, take control of the British economy for the Jesuits after the Battle of Waterloo? Anybody remember the Battle of Waterloo? It was Napoleon and France against who? The British. Is that right? And whoever won that war, they would control Europe. Now watch. Upon the Battle of Waterloo depended the future of the European continent. If the Grand Army of Napoleon emerged victorious, France would be undisputed master of all she surveyed on the European front. If Napoleon was crushed into submission, England would hold the balance of power in Europe and would be in a position to greatly expand its sphere of influence. Historian John Reeves, a Rothschild partisan, reveals in his book, The Rothschilds, Financial Rulers of the Nations, written in 1887 on page 167, that, quote, one cause of his, Nathan's, now Nathan Rothschild was the son of Mayer Rothschild. So, Nathan's success was the secrecy with which he shrouded and the torturous policy with which he misled those who watch him the keenest. So even people were watching him, friends, and he just knew how to not let any signs go. He used secrecy, just like the Jesuits. Why? Because he was working with them, friends. Look, there were vast fortunes to be made and what? And lost on the outcome of the Battle of Waterloo. The stock exchange in London was at fever pitch as traders awaited news of the outcome of this battle of the giants. If Britain lost, English consols would what? Plummet to unprecedented depths. If Britain was victorious, I don't know, that's just the way they wrote it back then. I'm just quoting from the book. Victorigate. The value of the council would leap to dizzying new heights if England won. Now what happened? As the two huge armies closed in for battle to the death, Nathan Rothschild had his agents working how? Feverishly on both sides of the line to gather the most accurate possible information as the battle proceeded. Additional Rothschild agents were on hand to carry the intelligence bulletins to a Rothschild command post strategically located nearby. Late on the afternoon of June 15th, what year? Remember, the Jesuits were restored just a year earlier. A Rothschild representative jumped on board and specially chartered boat and headed out into the channel in a hurried dash for the English coast. In his possession was a top secret report from Rothschild's Secret Service agents on the progress of the crucial what? Crucial battle. This intelligence data would prove indispensable to Nathan in making some vital decisions. It says the special agent was met at Folkestone the following morning at dawn by Nathan Rothschild himself. After quickly scanning the highlights of the report, Rothschild was on his way again, speeding toward where? London and the what? And the stock exchange. Notice what happened. Arriving at the exchange, amid frantic speculation on the outcome of the battle, Nathan took up his usual position beside the famous Rothschild pillar. He would just lean on it. He would lean on the pillar. That's what he did. Without a sign of what? Emotion. Without the slightest change of what? Facial expressions, the stony-faced, flint-eyed chief of the House of Rothschild gave a predetermined signal to his agents who were stationed nearby. Rothschild agents immediately began to dump consols on the market. They began to sell the British paper money and sell and sell and sell. As hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of consoles poured onto the market, their value started to what? Slide. So what was that an indication of? That Britain is going to lose. Is that right? So you're going to sell the money because we're going to have a new master in Britain. And this is what he began to do. Now watch. Nathan continued to lean against his pillar, emotionless, expressionless. He continued to do what? Sell and sell and what? Sell. Consoles kept on falling. Word began to sweep through the stock exchange. Rothschild knows. Rothschild knows. Wellington has lost at Waterloo. They must have lost. The selling turned into a what? Panic as people rushed to unload their worthless what? Consoles. They thought Britain was going to lose, or paper money for gold and silver in the hope of retaining at least part of their wealth. This is why we shouldn't be involved in the stock market, brothers and sisters. This is why we shouldn't be putting tithe in the stock market either. It's all gambling, friends. Consoles continue their nosedive towards oblivion. After several hours of feverish trading, the console lay in ruins. It was selling for about 5 cents on the dollar. 5 cents on the dollar. Now watch this now. Nathan Rothschild, emotionless as what? As ever, still leaned against his pillar. He continued to give subtle signals. But these signals were what? Different. They were so subtly different that that only the highly trained Rothschild agents could detect the change. On the cue from their what? Their boss, dozens of Rothschild agents made their way to the order desk around the exchange and bought every single console in sight for just a song. 5 cents on the dollar. Bought them all. A short time later, the official news arrived in the British capital. England was now the master of the European scene. Within seconds, the console skyrocketed to above its original value. As the significance of the British victory began to sink into the public consciousness, the value of consoles rose even what? Higher. Napoleon had met his Waterloo. Nathan had bought control of the British economy, friends. He now owned Britain. Overnight, his already vast fortune multiplied 20 times over at wicked, wicked man. The London Stock Exchange, friends. London is now the world's financial capital. Therefore, whoever controls what? London controls what? The world's finance, friends. Who controls then the finances of London? Let's look. This is Nathan Rothschild. He says, I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire or which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. Oh yes, friend. And through him, Rome controls Britain, friends. This monetary system is based upon debt. How does Rome plan to trap the lender and the borrower in this system? You see, friends, usually it's just the borrower that's trapped. Is that right? Most of us. But now, friends, they have devised a plan to trap both the borrower and the what? And the lender. Let's see how. Look. Let's see how. Quote, the few who understand the system will either be so interested from its what? Profits, or so dependent on its what? Favors, that there will be no opposition from that class. So they got you on both sides. The one who's lending, oh, I'm going to always make money off the interest. So you're gonna stay in the system. And the one who's borrowing is so dependent upon the system, they can't leave. They gotta stay. Do you know, brothers and sisters, that God's Seventh-day Adventist people, can I say that on the radio? Should not ever be affected by the world's economy. If we were following the blueprint plan, friends, oh, brothers and sisters, we would be the head far above. Brothers and sisters, listen. The Federal Reserve is a central bank. Do you understand that? In the United States? It is owned, is it owned by the United States government? No, it's not. Let's look. The financial system has been turned over to the Federal Reserve Board. Quote, that board ministers the finance system by authority of a purely profiteering group. The system is what? Private, conducted for the sole purpose of obtaining the greatest possible profits from the use of other people's money. Other people's money. Quote, most Americans have no real understanding of the operation of the international money lenders. The accounts of the Federal Reserve System have never been audited. Never. But they'll audit you. But they've never been audited. It operates outside the control of what? Congress. And manipulates the credit of the United States, friends. Now look, another quote from 1913. This Federal Reserve Act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the President Wilson, signs this bill, the invisible government of the monetary power will be legalized. The worst legislative crime of the ages is perpetrated by this banking currency bill. Back then, they understood, friends. They understood back then. Now, how does the Federal Reserve Bank buy government bonds? How have the Jesuits mastered this system? How have Rome mastered it? How do they do it? The Federal Reserve Bank buys government bonds without one penny, brothers. How could the Bahamas, how could the United States and other nations have fell for the scheme of a central bank? It's a humongous Ponzi scheme, friends. Look, quote, from now on, depressions will be scientifically created. You notice, friends, it's no more about the laws of supply and demand. No longer about that. I mean, even if you have a whole lot of oil, they're going to still keep the gas prices up. They're going to still, and it's going to rise higher. And brothers and sisters, we better get some horses. Look, who does the Bible say controls the rich at the end of time? Who does the Bible say control the rich at the end of time? We're closing now. We're closing. I don't want to keep you too late. Revelation 18, 1-3. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having what? Great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and it's become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunken of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the what? Merchants of the earth all wax rich through the abundance of whose delicacies? Her delicacies. So who controls the rich? Rome controls the rich, friends. Now, what are some of the major companies under Rome's control? Major companies. What is it? Look. Quote, major companies under Jesuit CFR control include what? The Ford Motor Company, Boeing Corporation, Pepsi Cola, Heinz Company, Lockheed Martin, Time Warner, and what else? Chevron. It's taken from our friend Bill Hughes. Amen? Now watch as we close. What about the media? Does Rome control the media too? Think they control the media? Oh, brothers and sisters, look. Quote, in the media, NBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, Newsweek, and Time are just a few media outfits dominated by the Jesuits. Just a few. Now watch this story. John Swinton was chief of staff for who? The New York Times. Notice what he says. Who is considered to be the dean of his profession, made a most bold confession. In 1953, at a New York press club, he declared, there is no such thing at this date of the world's history in America as what? An independent press. You know it, he says, and I know it. There is not one of you who dares to write your honest opinions. And if you did, you know beforehand that it would never appear in print. He says, I am paid weekly for keeping my honest opinion out of the paper. The paper I'm connected with, the New York Times. Others of you are paid similar salaries for similar things, and any of you who would be so foolish as to write honest opinions would be out on the streets looking for another job. Notice what else he says. If I allowed my honest opinions to appear in one issue of my newspaper before 24 hours, my occupation would be gone. Notice what he said. Quote, the business of the journalist is to destroy the truth. This is what he said, friends. This is what he said. To lie how? Outright. To do what else? To pervert. To what else? Vilify. Don't we see, brothers and sisters? Didn't we read the great controversy and we said that everybody's going to say that earthquakes and hurricanes are our fault? And people are going to believe it. To fawn at the feet of what? Mammon. And to sell his country and his race for his daily bread. Look, you know what he said, and I know it. And what folly is this toasting an independent press? We are the tools and vassals of who? Rich men. And who controls the rich men? We are the tools and vassals of rich men behind the scenes. We are the jumping jacks. They pull the strings and we what? We dance. He said, our talents, our possibilities, and our lives are all the property of other men. We are intellectual prostitutes. He said this. I bet he probably got fired. Hopefully he didn't get killed. But brothers and sisters, these rich men and these people behind the scenes are wrong. Listen carefully. This is where it's taken from, right here. Now, as we're closing, who will have the last word in Rome's conquest of the world? Come on now. Who's going to have it? That's right. And how is he going to have it? Watch this now. Revelation 18, 4-8. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be partakers not of her sins, and that ye receive none of her plagues, for her plagues have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you. And what? You say, no, don't talk about Rome. The Bible said reward her. Reward her, double unto her, double according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled to her how? Double. Oh, we can't talk about, just talk love. Just talk love. Look what it says. much she hath what? Glorified herself and lived how? Deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her by the tidings, friends. Look, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no